The order was simple: draw your sword. Every samurai in the hall expected Hiroshi to obey. Instead, he moved his hand away from the blade and said, "No." No one moved. A samurai could question an enemy. He could question himself. But refusing his lord before the entire court? That could destroy everything he had spent his life becoming. Kneeling before them was a captured ronin from an enemy clan. Takeda wanted an example made of him before sunrise. But Hiroshi had noticed something strange. The prisoner didn't look defeated. He looked like a man, waiting for something. Hiroshi followed the prisoner's eyes, not toward the exits, not toward the guards, toward the eastern hills. And suddenly, Hiroshi remembered something that made his stomach turn. 3 scouts had been sent east the previous evening. None had returned. The court assumed bad weather had delayed them. Hiroshi wasn't so sure anymore. And if he was right, the prisoner wasn't the danger. He was the distraction. Hiroshi lowered his head. "My lord, give me 1 hour. Let me find the scouts before you decide this man's fate." But Takeda's expression hardened. He hadn't asked Hiroshi for advice. He had given him an order. Whispers spread through the hall. Perhaps Hiroshi had grown weak. Perhaps years of peace had taken his courage. Then someone whispered the word every samurai feared: "Traitor." Hiroshi heard it. He didn't move. Then the prisoner laughed quietly. Not at the daimyo, at Hiroshi. "You noticed." 2 words. That was all Hiroshi needed. Whatever was happening beyond those hills, this man knew about it. Hiroshi bowed deeply. "My lord, forgive me." Then he did something even more dangerous than refusing the sword. He turned away from the prisoner and walked toward the eastern gate. If he was wrong, he would return as a traitor. If he was right, there might still be time. Hiroshi took only 2 men. No army, no banners. If enemy soldiers were really hiding in the east, a large force would warn them. So the 3 samurai disappeared into the morning mist, searching for men who should have returned hours ago. They found the first scout's horse less than a mile into the forest. No rider, no message, only fresh tracks disappearing between the trees. Hiroshi touched the ground. They weren't heading toward the castle. They were circling around it. Then Hiroshi saw them, hidden beneath the eastern trees. Hundreds of enemy warriors. They weren't preparing to attack the walls. They were waiting. And suddenly, the captured ronin's calm expression made perfect sense. The prisoner had allowed himself to be captured. Takeda would gather his best warriors to witness the punishment, while another force approached from behind. It wasn't an execution, it was a trap, and Takeda had walked straight into it. Hiroshi couldn't outrun an entire army, but he didn't need to. The missing scouts had carried an emergency signal. Hiroshi found it among their equipment and sent 1 warning across the valley. 3 long notes: "Enemy in the east." Back at the castle, Takeda heard the signal. His face changed immediately. Every warrior knew what those 3 notes meant. Then the daimyo looked at the prisoner. For the first time that morning, the ronin wasn't smiling. Takeda finally understood. Hiroshi hadn't refused because he was afraid to use his sword. He refused because drawing it would have given the enemy exactly what they wanted. And now, the man they had called a traitor was the only reason they still had time. Takeda gave a new order: forget the prisoner. Every available warrior was sent east. Archers climbed the walls. The gates were reinforced, and the silent castle that had expected an execution prepared for an attack instead. But the signal had revealed Hiroshi's position. Below him, enemy soldiers began looking toward the ridge. Hiroshi turned to his 2 companions. "Ride back." They hesitated. He repeated himself, "Now." All morning, Hiroshi had refused to draw his sword. Now, alone on the forest road, he finally reached for it. Not because someone commanded him, not because his honor had been questioned, but because now, there was something worth protecting. Hiroshi couldn't defeat an army. He knew that. But the road was narrow, and every moment the enemy spent dealing with 1 stubborn samurai was another moment Takeda had to prepare. For the first time that day, time was on Hiroshi's side. By the time the enemy reached the eastern gate, they found no sleeping castle, no unguarded walls, no easy victory. They found archers waiting above them, warriors behind reinforced gates, and a daimyo who now knew they were coming. Their surprise was gone, and with it, their greatest advantage. Hours later, Hiroshi returned. The courtyard fell silent. The same warriors who had whispered "traitor" now stepped aside as he passed. Takeda waited for him in the center of the courtyard. Then the proud daimyo did something Hiroshi never expected. He bowed. Not to a servant, not to a frightened warrior, but to the man who had been brave enough to tell him no. Hiroshi had spent his life learning how to use a sword, but on the day his kingdom needed him most, his greatest act of courage was refusing to draw it. Because courage isn't always charging into battle. Sometimes it's standing alone when everyone thinks you're wrong. Sometimes loyalty means questioning the person you serve. And sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who knows when not to fight.